How's it going, everybody? This is your Astrology Horoscope for Thursday, October 17th, 2024. I'm astrologer Alex Skyles, and welcome to the Moon Base. Hope you guys are doing great. It's good to be here with all of you. We just had that full moon lunar eclipse go exact just 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, roughly 6 hours ago. So this is the last one. This is the last full moon in Aries with the North Node and South Node in Aries and Libra that we're going to have with Pluto and Capricorn. Okay, of course, we had the set of eclipses with the North Node in Libra in 2015, and of course, this is closing out this whole 19-year cycle that opened up in 2005, which was the last time we had the North Node and the Aries eclipses, the full moon Aries eclipses in 2005. So this is closing out this 18-year cycle. This is also closing out Pluto and Capricorn. This is the last full moon in Aries we're going to have with Pluto and Capricorn. So this is it. This is closing out multiple layers of cycles. And of course, with Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, those are three timelines that are playing out as this nodal transit has been occurring. So we have to look at the past 18 months, really 16 months right now. July 2023, we have to look at how our identity has transformed, especially with Chiron being involved with this nodal transit. The transformation of our identity, the transformation of our ego, and how we relate and connect with other people, the relationships in our lives. What relationships have we had to completely sever and let go of? Of course, with this full moon, Juno and the sun are 24 degrees. Juno was Jupiter's wife, right? So it's like relationships that don't have meaning and purpose have been falling by the wayside, whether it is in love or marriage. Of course, Juno rules marriage, whether it's a marriage of love or, a friendship or, a business marriage, right? There's many forms of what a marriage can look like. But, this is now the moment. This is the last eclipses here. So we have had this opportunity to come into a better version of ourselves. We've had this opportunity with Chiron and the North Node and these eclipses, allowing us to open up these places of healing where our actual individual being has not felt like it's been acknowledged or heard. Aries, it wants to be acknowledged and heard. It's not really considering the other as much. So this is also what the South Node has taught us too. It's like with this Aries energy, we always have to consider the other people, right? And we're going through this with Pluto coming back into Aquarius, opposing any sort of Leo transits, right? This is about the individual and the creator and the audience, right? This is about the individual and the ego and the self-identity and the other and the relationship with other people. So it's like any surface level relationships have not made it through, and they're not going to make it through. The North Node and South Node won't go into Pisces and Virgo until January, but this is the last moment. So over these next 15 days before we get to the Scorpio new moon, this is where we're going to start to feel how that has culminated, how this transit has culminated. We're going to start to really be looking at ourselves and reflecting. Of course, this is a full moon, so it's like we have to reflect on how we have evolved as individuals, how the ego has expanded, how our ego has deflated, how the wounds to our ego in this Chiron and Aries has affected and humbled us in a lot of ways. I think it's humbled a lot of people, and of course, humbling us when it comes to our beliefs. I think our beliefs can really reflect where we haven't been willing to change and make any effort towards just not being stuck in the same place, not being stuck in the same routine and the same pattern. Okay, and Neptune and the North Node are coming together too, so we're going to start to see karmically how these patterns and these loops are going to start to be breaking away and falling away, and that the shell of the egg is going to start to crack as a new form of life is taking shape. Like this is like an end of a life here with Pluto in Capricorn at the last degree, and the last full moon in Aries that we're going to have with Pluto in Capricorn here. Okay. Venus in detriment in Scorpio is making a sextile with this full moon. So what does that mean? There's a lot of support on a deep level of really getting to those deeper places and those deeper connections. So those deep connections that we have in our life with this Venus trining Pluto here, it's like we have to really take account for that. Those are the ones that are going to make it through. The surface level, South Node Libra, whatever, is not going to make it through. If it's not genuine, if it's not built on something real and deep, and an understanding of the truth of what is within somebody, not just the external. That's the dark side of Libra, the South Node. It's like, it's looking at the external beauty, not being able to see within. So this Venus in Scorpio, making a sextile to Pluto, and Pluto dispositing Venus, this is helping us really look into our relationship life, and definitely our own personal life, and we can look at our own values and look at our own self-worth and how that's changed and evolved with this North Node Chiron in Aries. So this is the last eclipse. So we have to see like how this transit has culminated. How is this transit culminated in your life? What relationships have you had to sever from, that you've been tied to and stuck to, that were karmic, maybe past life shit? How has that affected you of you coming into a new version in your own version of you, not what somebody else wants it to look like, right? So there's a lot of truth that is coming out within us that is bubbling up to the surface, and it's a good thing. And Venus sextile Pluto, it is kind of like aha moments, or finding something you didn't know was there underneath the surface if you're willing to look. Right? So I think this is helping us get a deeper look into the cobwebs, into those deeper, darker places, but also allowing those deeper relationships and connection to start to really form and help support each other, But this is really about the kinds of people and the kinds of relationships where the dirt on each other, each other in and out. Right? Each other's past lives. You know how each person has changed and evolved over time, not just the one version that you've seen when you first met somebody. This is about the transformation of a relationship, or the transformation of your identity and how you identify with relationships, right? So this is closing out an 18-year cycle. This is closing out the 16-year cycle with Pluto here. Once we get to the Scorpio new moon and the Taurus full moon, which I think is going to be the last shebang of the year, of course, this is a very important full moon. But the Taurus full moon with Uranus, I think, that's how 2024 is going out with a bang. This one is a much more personal eclipse. Of course, in the world, and of course, in the collective, this is going to be triggering massive shit, of course, once again. I mean, and that's another story that's playing out. But this is what's really interesting here. After this full moon, just a few hours today, this Venus and the moon are changing signs right after this full moon. So here we go. We have Venus ingressing into Sagittarius, okay? Venus is ruled by Taurus and Libra. Of course, this is a Libra sun we have. The Venus-ruled sun. So now the sun's dispositing Venus. And here we go. 0 degrees, the moon moves into Taurus right after this full moon. So we have the moon coming into its exalted position in Taurus, which is the ruling sign of Venus, and Venus changing signs in Sagittarius. Right? So this is a lot of Venus energy. This is massive shifts in our relationships, massive shifts for us financially. This full moon can really shift things for people financially, big time. And of course, that Taurus full moon that we're going to have in November, which will be exactly on Uranus, risks can start to pay off. This is the last moment where it's like, if you need to take a risk, this is a good moment to do so. But this doesn't mean take a risk where it's like, oh, I'm going to put my life completely on the line. Like, I think there can be sudden positive shifts if we're willing to take a risk, whether it is a financial risk or a risk in love or a sacrifice, where if I let this go now, I know I'm going to gain this later, and of course Venus in Sag is willing to go on that journey, and sometimes taking a risk also requires a journey. So it's like, with Venus changing signs and the moon coming into Taurus, a Venus ruled sign right after this full moon, I just really think like this is signifying, and what the sky is trying to tell us here is that, right after this full moon, we're going to start to see massive shifts in our lives, like right before physical shifts, like very suddenly. People's moods, people's opinions, people's desires, right? We're talking about Venus. It's like Venus and Scorpio in his detriment. It's like, I just want to, be in this intense dark hole right now, and I enjoy being here. Not the most fun Venus transit. Venus in Sag is one of my most favorite transits. And of course, with the moon in its exalted position, it's like this can really ease up some of this incredibly intense full moon energy. But at least, coming out of this full moon and coming out of this eclipse, that we can actually feel some shifts on a level of where Venus is trying to get to. Okay, because Venus coming into Sagittarius and this moon coming into Taurus is going to allow us to actually be physically present much more than we've been able to. I think Venus coming through Scorpio has been such an intense frame of emotions that, it's not my most favorite place to be with Venus, but it's like the way that Venus and Scorpio kind of frames things. And compartmentalizes things. It kind of creates very extreme boundaries, right? Scorpio sets boundaries too. It's not just Saturn. Scorpio's like, don't cross this line or you'll regret it. Now Venus in Sag is like, I just want to blow through all the boundaries, all the limitations, and take a journey. So the energy is going to loosen up a little bit after this full moon. Because it's definitely been kind of stiff and restricted with Venus and Scorpio. So after this full moon energy, as we're coming into the afternoon on Thursday here, this can allow us to finally shed some weight off, or I feel like a lot of the weight that we've maybe been feeling has just been inside of us. And I think after this full moon, it's like some weight can start to lift, and it's like, why was I even thinking that? Why was I even feeling that? Why was I even allowing myself to put that pressure on me? That pressure was totally unnecessary, But of course, with Pluto here, now direct, inching its way towards Aquarius, there's a lot of pressure. Okay, and of course, collectively, this is a tipping point moment where there's so much pressure, and we know that some steam is about to be blown off here as we move into the next couple weeks. But on a personal level, like this full moon, it's like treat yourself after this full moon, with Venus coming into Sag, the moon coming into Taurus. So now we can start to have a little bit of fun. Of course, Mars is slowing down. This isn't my favorite thing in the world, but this is what we have to deal with every 2 years, is Mars getting ready to slow down. And Mars will oppose Pluto multiple times, which will be very volatile. And, we don't see this very often where, Mars is going to be facing off with Pluto here for an extended period of time. So we have to also be ready for that. And I think this full moon, on a collective level, it's really bringing up a lot of fear, right? We can feel there's so much fear being projected and promoted right now. And I think with this Venus coming into Sag right after the eclipse, and this moon coming into 0 degrees Taurus right with it. It's just, to me, indicating it's like, yeah, there's a lot of fear being promoted. There's a lot of insanity and chaos playing out, and people's beliefs, this and that. And of course, Jupiter and Gemini retrograde. It's like the split and the divide between, the collective is completely obvious, right? And this is where the North Node was in 2021. So, where Jupiter's at. So, I think on a level of where we put too much pressure on ourselves, like we could take that down a notch after this full moon. It's like there can be a little bit of a release valve. So it is like getting out, not being stuck in the same place with that Venus and Scorpio. It's like, I just want to be right here, and I want to be with that one person who's going to make me feel secure and feel comfortable. And, my food was just dropped off. But it's like allowing yourself to just break free from the binds, from the chains. That Venus and Scorpio, it's been very restricted, Of course, it made good energy with Mars during his transit, but it's not the most pleasant, right? Venus being disposited by Pluto during that. Now it's like Venus is in a Jupiter-ruled sign. So now we can have a little bit of a moment as we move into post-eclipse season to really change the vibe up here. Because it's going to be like a sudden shift. Once we come into this evening, there's going to be like a very sudden shift that we're going to feel come in to the atmosphere, which is very exciting, finally, because Venus and Scorpio is one of my... I love Venus and Scorpio natally. The transit itself, especially with Pluto here, coming direct, it's not been easy, for sure. Venus and Sag, I love dearly. So I can't wait to see how the rest of... this full moon is going to be playing out over the next 15 days, because we know the window that we're in before we get to this Scorpio full moon. This is one of the most fated moments that we're going through collectively that we've seen in our lifetime. This is about fate. This is Pluto and Capricorn. It is about destiny and fate, and there's something bigger that we're a part of, and, free will only goes so far, and we have to, play out our destiny and what we know we're supposed to do with, whatever that voice within us. It's different for everybody, but it's like, we're feeling that so deeply at this moment. And of course, with Venus coming into Sag, that connection and that, connection to whatever partnership or whatever creative ideas that we have, there's always got to be purpose and meaning behind it with Sagittarius and with Jupiter, right? It's like sometimes with Venus and Scorpio, it's harder to find the meaning other than just the desire. Now, with Venus and Sag, we could find the meaning and the purpose, just beyond just the desire. So, we have the Seven of Cups. So it's like, there are options with this full moon, but we can't just take every single option with us. With the South Node in Libra, we have to pick the right things. We have to pick the right things that are valuable. And with Venus coming into Sagittarius, it's like we have to pick the right things that are going to be valuable to the journey, because we can't take more than we need. Because if we're just going to take more than we need, of course, Jupiter, overabundance, Jupiter's now retrograde, we have to thin it out a little bit, right? But there are options. We at least have options of what direction we're going to take, what direction we're going to head with this full moon, because we got to also remember these eclipses and Pluto as well and Mars, which there is a loose Grand Cross square. I know some people are like, oh, this full moon's Grand Cross. Yeah, Mars and Pluto are involved in that. I'm more concerned about Mars and Pluto together and their opposition and how that's going to be through the Mars retrograde. But still, it's like, there is somewhat of a Grand Cross cardinal energy with this full moon. It's not exact, but it's like, which direction are we taking here? Right? Are we taking the direction that's just for you? with this full moon in Aries, right? Are we taking the direction of the south node of like, okay, the same old relationship patterns, right? Or are we building towards a higher destiny with Cancer or with Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn? Are we allowing that destiny to play out of this journey that we've been on since 2008? Are we just going to stay in our shell with Mars and Cancer going fucking slow as hell right now? Like almost going nowhere. So, I mean, Mars will come into Leo here once we get into November. But it's like, you know, which direction are we taking? There are options. With the Seven of Cups, it's always a reminder of there are options. And whichever direction we take, the value is always going to be expressed. It's always going to be there. You know, it's not like, oh, if I, you know, go this direction, I'm going to lose this. It's like, yes, we can't take it all with us. So this full moon is closing out an 19-year cycle since 2005. Think of how all of that has come together and where you started. I know specifically that I'm sitting in right here because of everything that I was doing in 2005. And when 2008 hit, it was like the stakes increased. They became way higher. The stakes became way higher, right? And the calling to do what I felt I was supposed to do, which I've always felt, you know, became very strong and very intense, you know, and events transpired. So it's like when you're aligning with whatever your calling is or whatever your destiny, and whenever fate takes hold, whenever you follow that, it's like these are moments. These are tipping point moments where things culminate and there are massive shifts. So over these next 15 days, we're going to see collectively and individually a great, you know, it's not, we've already had the shakeup. We've already went through the whole snow globe effect. Now it's like the actual course and direction of where we're taking, who's going where, who's taking what with them, you know, who's taking who with them. This is the moment, you know, and there's not really of course, retrogrades are just an illusion. There are no planets actually going backwards. So when we look out and we see Mars retrograding, you know, through December, January, February, when we see it, we can watch it in the sky. You know, if you see the constellation behind Mars, you'll see over those next 3 months that Mars is going to stop at a certain point, and from night to night, you'll see Mars slowly, you know, trail back. And then once it goes direct, you'll see it from night to night. And over those 2 months of it coming back into Leo and coming out of shadow, you'll see it, you know. So it's what are we taking with us and what are we leaving behind with this last Aries eclipse? So hope you guys have a wonderful full moon eclipse, and I'm excited for the shift with Venus coming into Sag and the moon coming into Taurus. It's 0 degrees all at once. So it's like, it's going to be a sudden where we were before Venus ingressed, and then where we're going when Venus comes into Sag. The journey is going to be completely different, and we're entering into a whole new exploration here. So hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace out.